Tired of the same old flashlight? Looking for something new? Perhaps you want something high-end with advanced features. Or maybe you want something very unique with an interesting shape and design. But maybe you're also not willing to spend $300 or $600. Well, the Wuben Night X-0 is here to save you. It's an extremely unique light with advanced features that won't break the bank. Welcome back to Shul Lights. The Night X-0 by Wuben is a flashlight that was sent to me for review, and it's one of these flashlights, one of the rare flashlights, I should say, that continually surprised me during my testing. Just when I thought it couldn't get any better, they'd add a new thing. Now, it's not without flaws, and I will point out two things that I'm not a big fan of, but I don't think they're deal breakers, and I think that this really is a high-end flashlight with really custom features at an incredible price. So let's dive right in. Here's the box that comes in, a rather plain looking box, but it does have some specs on the panel here. And when you open it up, it's got these little cardboard dividers, and you can pull out, the innards like this, and it kind of pops out like so. Inside the box, there is a manual and a charging cable, because this light does have built-in charging. Let's get that out of the way and talk about the battery and the built-in charging. So it has a button up on top here. This is the button for operation. And if you flip it up, it exposes a USB-C port. Now, the light has IP68 rating, which means it should be water resistant and dust resistant. So even though the port doesn't have a flappy doodle, which I actually like, I'm not a big fan of flappy doodles if you know my channel, but it does have this metal that kind of flops over it. So it's protected from bonks and scrapes. However, there is no flap, so I'm led to assume that the port itself has some kind of grommet or some kind of sealing around it that's preventing water from seeping in. When you plug in your USB cord to the port, this light right here will illuminate, and it goes from blue to red. So red initially when it's charging, blue when it's fully charging, and it's also a power indicator light. So if you press and turn it on, you'll see that it's blue right now, indicating it's fully charged, and it will turn flashing blue, then red, flashing red to indicate the various charge levels of the battery. Now the battery, initially I thought it must just be a sealed built-in battery because there's no real tail cap or anything, but there's like a plug right here. Now this plug, I couldn't turn it with my hands. I just couldn't get purchase on it. But if you have a lens, a DSLR lens filter wrench like this, you can get that in there right like so. Give it a little like that. And once you get it about a quarter turn, then I was able to get it the rest of the way with my fingers. And getting this cap off revealed, pleasantly surprised, a very standard 18350 battery, 1100 milliamp hours. It's got a Wuben wrap around it, but I'm sure that it's just a name brand battery that they have wrapped, because I could even tell right here that it's a double wrap. I don't want to cut it off. There's no need. It's a great battery and it works well. Here's the internals of the light. Let me get a little light in there so you can see that it's got a spring at this end, and it has a brass button right here that is slotted at this end. Now, it is also a magnetic tail cap, and it's denoted by this inscription right here. I don't know if the magnet can be removed. I mean, perhaps. It's got a little slot there for what looks like a standard screwdriver. Let's reassemble this. I guess it's just really nice to know that even with the built-in charging and the fact that the light is kind of assembled in a way that doesn't look like you're really meant to pull this out to charge each time. Because again, even getting this back on, it's like I can only get it so finger tight before I have to grab my tool again and then just give it a little extra like this, right? A little extra to kind of get on there. So I don't think that it's meant to be charged in a standalone charger. I think you're meant to use the charging port included on the light, but it's nice to know that it's got a standard non-proprietary battery, and you could pick up any flat top 18350 and stick it in there. Let's talk about the ergonomics and shape of this light, which is very unique. First off, you can see it's a square flashlight. That's just not something you normally see. It's got a very interesting kind of techno-industrial design with all these little cutouts to give it a unique look. And don't overlook the fact that it has 8 tritium slots on the light. I like the way the slots have been milled into this light, which don't really make you feel like you have to fill them, but you could put tritium tubes in here for self-luminous glow, or maybe put some glow tubes in here if you want to save a little bit of money, or just leave them blank. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's all 8. And yeah, these are the tritium tube slots right on the top here. This is not a tube slot. This is where the indicator is for turning it on. All right, let's talk about the ergonomics and design of this unique flashlight. First off, it's incredibly small. This is a Boss 35 here in aluminum, and you can see how much smaller this light is than even that one, which is already known to be an incredibly small light. Here is the Synergy I had before. You can see it's just dwarfed by the Synergy. Now, if we turn it on to its end here, you can see that it is about the same diameter. It's a little wider this way. So this Overready Boss, which is aluminum and very lightweight, if you take a look, it is 97 grams. This Synergy 2, which has 2 batteries in it right now, is 158 grams, and this Wuben with its battery inside is only 85 grams. So it's a really lightweight flashlight. But the fact that it's square really prevents rolling. You can kind of put it, and by the way, it's got these cutouts right here where you can put it at a 45-degree angle, which is a really awesome feature for a right-angle light like this. You can turn it on, stick it wherever you want. It's a really good hands-free operation, isn't it? You can go like that, like that. Really, really clever. Now, I also want to point out that it's got a magnet and a tail cap. We said that earlier, but I want to point out that there you go. It's a really strong magnet. You can kind of, you can kind of hear. See how strong that sucks in right there. Be careful, because I noticed that it is really strong, and I was playing with it earlier, and I kind of scratched it just a little over the serial number here. So again, maybe you want to put a little piece of electrical tape or something on there if you care about the finish of your light. I didn't really talk about the design yet. I just wanted to say that it's got this kind of techno-industrial shape to it. Very interesting looking. When I first saw it, I didn't know if I loved it, but it's been growing on me a lot. And I also want to point out that the switch is super unique. We're going to talk more about the switch in the UI section. So if you want to know more about why it's flappy like this, why it's got all these little dials in here, definitely look in the UI. But I also wanted to point out that the one major gripe I have about this light is actually the clip. Now, fortunately, this being a right angle flashlight and having this strong magnet, it's one of these things where when I'm using the light, I'm probably not going to be using the clip, right? I'm probably going to be standing it somewhere, or I'll just throw it in my pocket wholesale. I won't have this clipped to my pocket. But if I wanted to use the clip, let's say I was at, an amusement park or something, and I was afraid that this light would come flying out of my pocket. It is there, so that's a bonus. I'm glad we have it. But I'm not going to be using this clip daily because it is a very strong clip. I mean, there is no flex here. And as you can see, the clip comes in contact with the body. So it's just not something that I can lift this up and get it over my pants pocket with. I struggled a lot. If I use 2 hands, I can kind of finagle it to get enough gap to get it over my pants and get it in my pocket. But I find this to be... So let's put it this way. For an everyday carry clip, it's atrocious. It's just really bad. But I find that it's not a deal breaker for the light because I am likely just to lock the light out, 1, 2, 3, 4, throw it into my pocket, and now it can bang around and, hit and it won't turn on. And if I ever need a clip to secure it, I still have one. So that's the way I see this. I see it as not an everyday carry clip where I'd always have it clipped to my pocket, but more as a light I would throw into my pocket, and I'd use the clip to securely attach it in cases where I think I would lose it. Let's talk about the X-0's driver and UI, which I think more than justifies the price tag of this flashlight, which is normally $69 on the website, but there's an introductory coupon and discount code. By the way, look for those down in my description of the video. I've got a referral link. They'll take you right to the website. That'll help out my channel if you click on that. Also, I've got a 10% coupon code, so go ahead and take advantage of that. But this flashlight is, as I said, its MSRP is $69. So why would I spend $69? Well, first off, as I said, this is a $600 flashlight, so I'm not unaccustomed to spending a little bit more if the flashlight's worth it. So what makes this flashlight worth it? Well, it's got a great emitter. This is a Samsung LH351D. It's the same kind of high-end emitter that's used in a lot of high-end customs. So let's take a look at the button here on top. This button is really unique. So if I go like this, you see the button stays put, but it's actually kind of just a flap that just kind of dangles. And what it is there's magnets right here that keep it held shut. So you can see that if I pull it up like here, at some point, it just kind of flips up. Now that action of it kind of being magnetic actually makes it really fun to kind of just flip it. Now there's not much more to it than that. It's just basically like kind of a little flip and you can feel this magnet, but you can kind of get right to where the magnet's pulling on it and you can kind of just do this in your hand, It's kind of a really fun little extra fidget toy. So I like it and it's a cool little bonus. All right, let's go over how the switch actually works, which is kind of tough to explain. So you've got the magnets right here. But then here, you got these two little cylinders, which are just like springs, and they just kind of give it this nice bounce when you push the button. It gives it a really firm kind of feel. Now, right here, you see kind of a pill-shaped oval. That oval is the actual button, and I can articulate it with my fingernail. I'll click it again, and when you click it, you can see there's a little bit of glow right here, but that's glow really coming from the LED in front right here. Now, this whole switch, again, I don't want to over-analyze it because it works really great, but it is a very unique design, and it just, it feels good. I can hit it from any angle. I can hit it off to the side like this, down in the middle. I like it. I really do. Now that we understand how the switch works, let's take a look at the UI itself, which is really fun. So this is a mode light, which these days I really kind of do prefer modes to ramping. I love this Synergy 2, and I've got several of them, and the driver is excellent. But when you need to change the brightness, you press and hold, and you get to whatever you want to go to, and then you let go. So then you press and hold again, and it goes the other direction. Now, that's interesting at first, because you go, wow, I have infinite variability. I can get it right to the brightness I want. But what I dislike about it is, one, it's a little slower to use. If I could just tap, 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 and go through modes, that would be quicker. But also, I like to know exactly what lumens I'm at, and in a ramping UI like this, I never do. Why do I want to know what lumens I'm at? Because then I can calculate runtime. If I'm on a trip and I put this light on and I know I'm at low or medium, I know I have X amount of minutes left. But with a light like this, when I set it to wherever I want it to be, just by feel, I don't really know where I'm at, and so it's always a guessing game with the runtime. So modes are a big win for me, and let's take a look at this. So you turn it on, and then you press and hold, and it cycles through moonlight and 3 modes. So you can see it's high, moon, low, medium, high, moon. Okay, there you go. Now, did you notice there was a kind of slight ramp up and ramp down when it went from one mode to another? Take a look again. So when we get to the high here, see how it kind of like dims? Like it's like a dimmer switch, right? That indicates to me that, along with the fact that there was no detectable pulse width modulation at all, that this is probably an efficient regulated driver. Now, Wuben didn't give me any specs on that, and I have not pulled it apart, but that kind of like, ramp up in between modes where you can kind of see it kind of gradually get brighter, that's a hallmark of a very efficient, great driver. Now, while you're using the UI, and let's set it to, let's say, the highest here, you can double click while it's on to go to turbo. All right. Now, here's the thing. If you double click again, you get into strobe. Now, I don't mind that, but I'd prefer, and this is one of my niggles here, if when you double clicked again, it returned from strobe back to high or the other mode you were at. So for example, if I was on moonlight like I am right now, and I double click to go to turbo, I would like a double click to return to moonlight, but instead it puts me into strobe. And all is not lost because you see that when I clicked once to leave strobe, I returned to moonlight, but I would still just rather have double click, exit turbo instead of going into strobe. Another thing I noticed is if the light is off, if you do one click to turn it on and then 2 clicks, you go to turbo like you'd expect. But if it's off and you go 2 clicks right now, it goes to strobe. Again, that's not what I'd like. I'd like it go straight to turbo. That's not a deal breaker by any means. It's just not what I would like from this UI. But here's where the UI is going to get really excellent. So strap in. Those little strobe niggles aside, the UI is excellent. Let's dive into it and let me show you why I love this UI so much. Okay, I printed out this parameters from their website and I wanted to show you something here. So moonlight should be 1 lumen and low is 15, medium is 50, high is 250, and then turbo goes up to about 1,000. Now, here's the thing. First off, that's excellent spacing. That's exactly the way I would set up any of my lights. I want moonlight for, the late night bathroom trips. 15 is definitely bright enough to see by, but it's got an incredibly long run time. 50 for just, a bit more, I want to illuminate the whole room. And then 250 is going to be really bright, but not get the light super hot if I need it to be on a long time, right? So this is excellent spacing. But here's where it gets so cool. You can actually change any of these really easily to a range of values so you can fine tune it the way you want. So let's take a look at this. For example, if I turn it on here, you can see I'm in moonlight right now. Let's go to low. So I'm on low right now, which is 15 lumens. And let's say I wanted 30 lumens, so a little brighter. So what I'm going to do is click and click again. So click twice, but hold on the second click. So it's going to look like this. Click hold. And when I do that, notice that it's going to change the brightness slightly and it's going to blink when it's at the top and then ramp back down and blink when it's at the bottom. So if you look very carefully, it's going from about 15 lumens up to 50 and then from 50 down to 15. And it's a really great feature to be able to move these modes around a little bit. And the fact that they move within a set range is also kind of fun because it means you're not going to accidentally get these out of order and go from like low to high and then medium and then turbo instead of low, medium, high, turbo. Now, let's say you mess it all up and you want to get it back to normal. So there is a factory reset that gets it back to the default values. What you're going to do is you're going to employ the lockout. And the lockout you definitely want to use because this button is really easy to accidentally mash in your pocket. So while it's off, tap it 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to get a couple confirmation blinks on the front to show you you're locked out. And when you press the button, you get confirmation blinks on the light indicator here to show you that you're locked out and it's not turning on. Now, while it's locked out, you're going to go 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks. And you can do it pretty rapidly. Watch. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And now that it turned back on low, that confirms that you have factory reset it. So now if I go through these, I'm going to be back at the values they had by default from the factory. As I said earlier, one of the biggest reasons I love moded lights is because then I can use a chart like this and know exactly what I'm going to get from these run times. Notice that you might say, why don't I just use 250 lumens all the time? Well, that's because you'd only get about 2 hours of runtime. Whereas if I can get by with 50 lumens, I'm going to have enough light for an entire night. So that's one of the reasons I love modes over ramping. Okay, let's measure lumens. So we'll put it onto moonlight here, get it right in the hole, and you can see that I'm measuring about 1.5, 1.6 lumens. So that's right around what they quoted of 1 lumen. Let's go to low, and we got about 15 lumens right there. Let's go to medium. We got ourselves 45, 50 lumens. That sounds pretty accurate. Let's go to high, And I got to go to the next range. And I've got myself 210, 209 lumens. And then let's go to turbo, double click. And we got ourselves 850 lumens. Now, I'm not completely on a charged battery here. I did get about 900 lumens when it was fully charged. It was a little under. It was like 890. But something I want to point out is we like to test lumens at ANSI. And while I've been talking, notice how it's barely dropped. Again, this is a hallmark of an advanced driver, an efficient driver. If this was like, a Hank light with FET, this thing would be down around 500 lumens already. So again, this is what you're paying for. Let me take a moment to actually show that on high, you can change lumens from that 200 value. So let me press and hold to go to moonlight. Then let me go to low, medium, high. Now, if you remember, high was around 200 lumens. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click, hold, and I'll wait till I see the flash. Okay, so now I should be at the lowest, and you can see there's the 130 lumens I'm rating. Now let's go click, hold again. It should ramp up this time. When I hit the flash, I'll know I'm at the highest it can set to. And now you can see that I'm about 250 lumens instead of the 200 I started at. All right, I turned off my video lights. Let's go ahead and take a look at a measurement here on the Sekonic, and you'll see that this is measuring about 4,800 Kelvin and about 35 or so over BBL. It's a high CRI emitter with a respectable R9 and over 90 in the RA category. This light comes in two different versions, an Osram P0, which is what you want to get if you want cool white and just maximum candela and lumens. The lumens aren't that much different from 900 lumens. It should be around 1100 lumens, but the candela is significant in that it goes from 2600 candela up to about 4000. However, I don't think it's that great of a trade-off when you can get the Samsung LH351D, which is a high CRI emitter with a good tint. Now, it is above BBL, as you saw on the Sekonic reading, but it's not green, okay? It's just not rosy. It's more neutral-ish. Now, I will also tell you that the sun itself is slightly above BBL, so during the day, this emitter looks great. Why would you use one during the day? I don't know, you're working on a car, right? Or you're looking for something that you dropped between the crack and the seats in the car. But what I'm saying is a lot of lights that read neutral on the Sekonic here actually look pink during day, and I find that this flashlight looks really neutral during the day. Before we head outside, I wanted to quickly show you the beam profile, which is really unique. It's got this very round hot spot with a round and defined corona, which is really even. From here to here, the corona is very even, and then it's got the spill beyond that. If I hold it against the door here, you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's got this hot spot right there, right in the middle from here to here. Then it's got this corona, and then you see right here, it's got spill all the way down to here. So you can see that when I pull it out like this, hot spot, corona, and then spill. This 3 distinct stages it has, I don't see that on a lot of lights, and it's got a great look. Let's take it outside. Okay, we're outside for some beam shots. Let's take a look at 3 lights compared. So we'll start with the Zebra Light SC64CLE. This is an LH351D Samsung emitter, just like the other 2 lights, which is a Synergy 2 by Freelux, and this is also an LH351D Samsung emitter. And then we'll look at the review light, which is the Wuben Night X-0. Now, all of these are Samsung emitters, so they should be appropriate to each other. The only difference is the Zebra Light is a 4000 CCT, while these 2 guys are 5000 K. Now, all of these are slightly above BBL, but you'll find that any hint of green is diminished greatly at the 5000K versus the 4000K CCT. So let's start out with the Zebra Light to get a baseline. I chose this because it's a pretty ubiquitous light that people know of. So let's go directly to high. And I want to say that I'm at 5000K white balance locked. and that the exposure is locked as well. And that's how it looks around the neighborhood here on high. Let's go to a medium. So there's a medium right now. And I want to look at the nature of the beam, which is a pretty soft hot spot with, a spill that comes on out. So if I raise this up into the air here, you can see the edge of the spill right here. So it's a very, very good beam, but it's definitely kind of a smooth transition between the hotspot to, I don't even really see a corona, and then the spill. Now let's take a look at the Synergy 2, which I really like because the Synergy 2 has a really defined hotspot, kind of a really hard hotspot. So here is the Syn 2, kind of on a medium ramp, and you can see that this hotspot is really well defined. And when I raise it up into the air here, you're going to see here's the spill. So the spill isn't quite as bright, at least at this ramp. Let's go to turbo, and you can see that this is actually a brighter light than the Zebra. Let's go back to the Zebra. We'll do a side-by-side right now. I'll keep the Zebra on the left, and I'll keep the Synergy 2 on the right. And so let's go to turbo, and turbo over here. Let's hit that tree, and then there we go. So you can see that I'm going to give it to the Syn. The Syn 2 has a slightly brighter hotspot. It's slightly more candela. And these lights, they are reaching all the way down to the end of the street. So let's give the distances. This tree right here, this one right here, is 25 meters away. And then the 4 palm trees in the back here are 120 meters away. And so for this light to be reaching that fence and those palm trees is pretty remarkable. Now let's go ahead and pit the Wuben Night X-0 against the Synergy. So let's start out with the Wuben, and I wanted to really point out, let's tilt down a little bit. I wanted to point out the nature of this beam. I showed you inside earlier. It's got this really defined hotspot and a really defined corona, and then the spill is all the way out here. Let me go ahead and tilt back up, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Come up to the sky. You can see that there's a hotspot. Here is the edge of the corona, and then the spill, I can see it just barely. There's some spill all the way out to here as I'm that high in the sky. Now, I wasn't on turbo, so let's go to turbo. All right, there's turbo. And I find that the Synergy 2 here and that the Wuben are almost identical. The biggest difference that I'm finding, and let's go ahead and tilt down again, is that the size of the hotspot is a little different between the two. So let's go to a medium ramp on both. And you can see that this, so again, we got the Wuben on the right here. So this is the Wuben, and this hotspot's really defined, and it's slightly smaller than the Synergy over here. You can see it's a little bit, it gets a little less defined, a little bit more graduated out. And but they are very similar otherwise. And then if I go to the Zebra here, you see the Zebra is very gradual. There's almost no defined hotspot at all. Let me go to medium. You can see it's just kind of a hotspot out, and there's just almost no definition. So depending on what you like here, I'm going to say that all 3 of these lights are very comparable, and that for size, the Wuben X-0 clearly wins. And I would even say for interface, because again, this is a ramping UI over here with the red Synergy, and you can't predetermine where you're going to land, where here you can not only predetermine which mode, but as we showed in the UI section, you can actually set the different modes to be higher or lower. And if you happen to have a Lumen tube or some kind of ceiling bounce app, you could even set it to the precise lumens you want. And I think that's just a great plus for this light. So this is a surprising light for me. I like it way more than I thought I would. It's got a very good emitter stock in it. The Samsung LH351D is a high CRI perennial favorite in the enthusiast community. It's 5000K tint, actually makes it look very neutral. Remember that, if it's a little bit above BBL and it's 4,000, it's going to show more than it would at 5,000. So this is an excellent work light. And, the design, it's so small. It's got a user replaceable battery. It's a great price point. So, and it's got a really advanced driver. Okay. So, what I'm saying is if I compare it to a light like this, it's like, yeah, the machining's not as good. And, it's got labeling on it. So it's not really like a custom flashlight. But this is one of those production flashlights where it's got a lot of custom high-end features like the ability to change the modes, the ability to set the modes exactly to what you want, and like electronic lockouts and things like that. So with its efficient driver, the fact that it holds the lumens it's supposed to hold at ANSI, I think this is a winner. And I don't think you can do much better for the price. And as I said, its MSRP is $69, and you can get it cheaper with the coupon codes down below. So I think that people that buy this light are going to definitely like it. And with how small and diminutive it is, and the fact that it's a right angle work light, it's scratching a lot of itches for me. So thank you for staying to the end of this video. And if you liked what you saw, please remember to subscribe and like the video, give me a comment or two, and I'll see you in the next video.